friends, how are you? Fun little fact, if you read Times or Telegraph or the New York Times or whatever it is, any broadsheet newspaper, you will have ingested or been made accessible to you more information in that reading than someone, the average person in the 1700s, would have had in their entire lifetime. Their whole life. And so we live in an age of information overload that worships knowledge. And the thing is that sometimes we think that knowledge makes us wise, and we think that knowledge opens the door for success or whatever it is. But I wanted to just let you know there's a massive difference between knowledge and wisdom. And knowledge to become wisdom requires not just the ingestion of knowledge, it requires the digestion of it, it requires the analysis of knowledge, it requires the critique of knowledge, the critique of information that's presented to you, and then it requires you to formulate some sort of view and apply it to an area of your life, and then it becomes wisdom. And so what we do in our culture is we celebrate information and we give ourselves snippets, these little tidbits of information. So we do 90 seconds on Instagram or like 30 seconds on TikTok or like whatever the social media platform is. And then if we can recite back information, regurgitate knowledge, we kind of have this like bizarre self-perception that we know what's going on in the world. And actually we don't. Because to fully understand why knowledge is important, you need to apply it, having digested it, analysed it, and critiqued the information you've been given, and then apply it to something or someone or somewhere in your life. Then it becomes wisdom, and that's what Jesus talks about. Paul speaks really clearly about this in 1 Corinthians 8. He's talking about food sacrificed to idols, and what he says is that this is the context where Paul is talking to the Corinthians about don't like make your brother stumble or sister stumble because your faith is not better, but your faith is broader than their faith. So some people felt they could eat from food sacrificed to idols on the basis that Jesus had redeemed that food. Others felt no, they couldn't touch that. Paul's saying, actually, yeah, you're right, you can eat that food. You actually can eat that food because Jesus has redeemed it and he's redeemed everything. But the issue was not the knowledge. The issue was the application of the knowledge, where the Corinthians were starting to put each other down on the basis of their different views on new moon festivals or food sacrificed to idols. And here's the other thing, friends. What Paul talks about then is that they know, but they do not know. And he also says that knowledge puffs up. And we live in a culture and a society now where the gaining of knowledge puffs us up into arrogance, even though as individuals we have not digested the information we've been given, we haven't analysed or critiqued it, and we've never applied it, which is why you get 20-year-olds walking into places thinking that they know everything and actually they don't. Now that's not just specifically for Western culture, that's happened across the course of time. But it's particularly prevalent in our culture. And my suggestion to you is this, is that while we are receiving more knowledge than ever before, we are getting more stupid. Because the foundational narrative of knowledge is not so that we can keep it in our brains and regurgitate it. The purpose of knowledge or information is that we can digest that and apply it in our lives in wisdom and in love, which is exactly the opposite to what the Corinthians were doing, which is why Paul called them out on it. So my suggestion, friends, is this. When you are downloading information, when you're doom scrolling on Instagram, when you're having all these things hit you in the face, just be aware that you're not actually learning, you're just ingesting. You're not actually gaining something that will benefit your life. In fact, it becomes detrimental to your life. Because here's the deal. We are given this line in our culture that what happens is that the more knowledge you have, the more power you have, and therefore the more freedom you have. But that's not true. Actually, knowledge comes with a great level of responsibility to understand the knowledge and then apply it, which means that if you don't do that, you're actually puffed up and you're less free than you were before you had the knowledge in the first place. So my suggestion to you is this narrative of freedom that we get from our culture, particularly Western culture, which is the more knowledge you have, the more able you are to emancipate yourself from the slavery to people who are more clever than you, or move on in life and understand things more. But actually, guys, if you're just gaining knowledge and you're never learning to actually critically analyze it, go through it in detail, internalize it, and understand what it means for your life, you're actually not being free. You are bound to a cultural narrative which is bondage, by the way, that the more that you know, the freer you are. The more that you know, the greater success that you are. It's not true. It's the wisdom that you get through studying knowledge and information. It's the wisdom that you get through analysing and critiquing everything that comes your way, and also, by the way, putting it next to the Bible and seeing if it matches up there. That is what freedom is. That is what success is. So next time you see a 90-second TikTok video that tickles your fancy or hits something of the emotional response button in your soul, remember this: analyse, critique, and apply, because then you're wise. Otherwise, you're just puffed up. Peace.